So I finally watched the first 8 seasons of Survivor, which I am dubbing the Classic Age, and let it be known that this is just what I'm calling it. I know that some of the following seasons should probably also be included in like the Classic Age too, but I've already decided on how I'm doing this, and throughout this channel I plan to do videos on all 40 seasons as I watch them. Well, I didn't do Borneo, but yeah. And I've separated them into 4 eras. The Classic Age, which is Borneo to AllStars. The Middle Ages, which is Vanuatu to Heroes vs. Villains. The Nostalgia Era, which is Nicaragua to Worlds Apart. And the reason I'm calling it Nostalgia Era is this was kind of the era of Survivor that I grew up on. This is the era that was kind of present when I was a young child. And then now, of course, the Modern Era, which is Second Chance through Winners at War. I also have seen more than 8 seasons, at least watching it through. Like I don't know if I've said this, but I've seen Second Chance and Caramoan out of order because I saw those 2 seasons as either when they came out or shortly after they came out. But I've chosen not to talk about them. I'll probably rewatch them later. But then I've kind of fallen behind, and I've already seen through. I just started Survivor Guatemala just recently, so I'm kind of behind. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's take a look at number 8 of these 8 ranked seasons. Surprise, surprise, number 8 is Thailand. This season was just atrocious. Even the set and challenge design that mirrored the Thai culture wasn't good enough to save this train wreck of a season. Now let's start with the cast. Oh boy. Not once had I ever been unclear on what tribe to root for until Thailand. Both tribes are packed to the gills with insufferable players, with all the good ones either gone too soon or just not seen enough. There were scandals at Chuegan and laziness so bad at Sukjai that they intentionally threw at least one immunity challenge just to cut the weak links. The challenges ranged from pretty cool to sorting fish, and finally the twists. For one thing, this was the first season that the players weren't already pre-sorted into tribes. It is Schoolyard Pick'em, with Jan and Jake being the tribe leaders, which isn't too bad. I actually thought it was kind of a breath of fresh air, but at first I was kind of worried that they would have the split on gender lines. I mean, hey, at least that definitely didn't happen the next season. And then there was the fake merge, which, yeah, it changed the dynamic a little, but in a somewhat negative way by screwing over Xian's game, who was someone I was rooting for going into the merge. All in all, this was a disappointing season with a horrible cast. I can't even think of anyone else besides Brian that would be worthy of winning this season. And the fact that the runner-up was Clay is a testament to that. Even though people say that, like, Brian, like, personality-wise, everyone hates Brian. You know, he was cold and... But I think he actually, I think I've kind of changed my tune on Brian. I think he actually made a really good strategic game. He had a pretty solid game strategically. He just wasn't as likable of a person as some of the other winners. Now, don't get me wrong. Borneo is a good season. I think if I watched it now, I would enjoy it a lot more than I did when I started it a few years ago, and it took me like 3 years to watch all of it because I got bored. See, I can't even believe I ever got bored of Survivor. It's hard to hit a home run on the first go, but, the country fell in love with Survivor on the season, so, maybe they succeeded. This was, the proverbial first pancake off the griddle, so it is impressive that, it beat out even one season. The thing that makes Borneo so special, though, is that it's the nuance of the season was different. It was more about seeing if people could make it 39 days in the wild, and I mean, sure, they still had the voting out thing, but, like, they didn't really know how the cast would receive it. They didn't know that people would immediately start playing really hard. It was kind of less of a game show and more of a social experiment. From the season alone, it has garnered a lot of really memorable players. And I will admit that the cast could be a little bit dry at times, and, a lot of the members, I barely even remember them. Like, some of the people, especially ones who went out kind of early, I don't really remember them that well. But I can list several people from both tribes that I like quite a lot, that are, probably some of my favorite players. These really are the only 2 seasons here that I'm not crazy about. I just straight up hate Thailand, and Borneo I'm just kind of like, eh. So, but from here, it's mainly positive comments. I mean, come on, the Amazon had a pretty easy act to follow, and it was the first season to play the Battle of the Sexes, and it started out very interesting. I loved the setting so much. Probably one of my favorite settings that I had seen since the Outback. And Africa. Africa was cool too, setting wise. It was something fresh that we hadn't seen from Survivor before, and that's kind of what Thailand tried doing. So it's good to see that they nailed it on the second try. I'd say this was kind of the first season that didn't really have a pagonging. Some may argue that Marquesas didn't either, but that's for another video. And that changed the dynamic of the merge portion of the game quite a lot. This was the first time that every episode truly was an adventure, and we never know who would go next because of the even numbers going into the merge and the constant flipping, the constant flipping of sides from the likes of Rob and Matthew. This was shaping up to be possibly the best season since the Outback. But what happened that dropped it this low? The ending. Rob Cesternino was shaping up to be the best winner we've ever seen, and then he didn't win. Jenna Maraska just decided that she was going to be a comp beast, like, at the 11th hour of the game, winning out until all that remained were just herself and Matthew. Either way, it would be an unsavory result, as Matthew wasn't necessarily jury bait either. I guess, would jury bait be the right term, I guess? Because jury bait sounds like it would be, like, term for someone who was meant to be on the jury, but you know what I mean. It's still a pretty solid pretty solid season, just kind of ruined by probably the most upsetting finale in Survivor history. But besides that, the cast was very great, and they really worked quite well with the main twist of the season. So, for the most part, I really like this season. I've said it before, I'm not a returning player season kind of guy that much, unless, like, it's something huge. But AllStars really surprised me. It seemed sort of a drag at times because of its length, and had a bigger cast than usual, but I got used to the extra tribe, and the twists were actually fair and entertaining to watch. It gave players that we loved a second chance, while breathing new life into people who didn't make it as far as first, like Alicia, Boston Rob, and Sheehan. And surprisingly, all of those people made it to the end. So, we always hear jokes like, oh, like at the final 7, it's like, oh, none of them should be All-Stars. Where it's like, not even Rupert. People, like, do they overlook Rupert? Because, yeah, besides them, it's all, like none of them at, like, the final 7 actually made it that far. I mean, we even had, like, some pre-jurors. But I think they all deserve to be on All-Stars, because it's not like All-Stars doesn't mean like winner or finalist. I think people are a little bit too critical of their first games, and if they're on an All-Stars season and they've made it this far, I think that amounts to something. And yeah, sure, this season technically had a pagonging like many others, but the 3 tribes of the start, it kind of messed up that dynamic of the pagonging. There's I think it was the first season to ever have like 2 swaps. And, quite a lot of moving around of tribes. It didn't really feel that much like a pagonging, though. So, say what you want about its ending being unsatisfying. I talked about that very much in one of the last videos that I made. It was still a great season through and through. Africa took us to an environment never seen before on the show, and I think that was the biggest appeal for the season for me. The cast was pretty memorable as well, and introduced new twists that have stood the test of time, like the swap. The moves that were made by players in this season showed they were wise beyond their years. It was really the first time that it was clear that one specific tribe was better than the other, because with Borneo and the Outback, there was kind of like, it was pretty even, and like they both of those seasons, they went into the merge 5 against 5. It was this kind of age divide within Sambaru that I think kind of sunk them. But everything about this season was kind of new feeling and fresh, and it seemed like I think there was a lot bigger of a step between Borneo and the Outback than the Outback and Africa. Yeah, people may call me a hypocrite for booing Jenna's win in the Amazon when I back Ethan's win here, because both are surprisingly similar. One person was on the fast lane to win, and then they got murked at the final 3, leaving 2 people that the jury would not have picked over the final boot. That being said, I found Ethan more likable than Jenna. If she made more moves than him, the few moves he did make, I just found ultimately more impressive than anything she ever did. Now, in my opinion, these next 3 seasons are legendary tier seasons, and for the most part, people agree that these are really good seasons. I think Marquesas, people kind of give honestly a bad rap. Like it's it's almost never near the bottom of anyone's like total season rankings, but I feel like it's way too low. Yeah, starting this off is Marquesas. Oh my gosh, I love this season. This is, I think, kind of the season that took off. Like, Outback was the first big improvement, but Marquesas is, I think, what made it start to feel like what Survivor feels like today. From the beginning, where there were new twists making it harder to, well, survive, the tribe dynamic was different because Maraamu sucked, and still the winner came from it, which is crazy. The cast was the best out of, like, oh my gosh. Honestly, Marquesas might be one of, if not the best cast of of this first season of Survivor. Because, like, Borneo, Borneo and even the Outback, the cast was maybe a little bit dry. The cast of Thailand sucked. It was just such a good cast with so many, memorable people from it. It's just historically, it was, it's just so much progressed in this season. It was the first season to not have a pagonging because of some never-before-seen alliance flipping. And when it came to enjoyability, Marquesas was just like the seasons that came before it. But the difference was its great cast and its rich history that contributed to the show. Now this is almost perfect. A pirate-themed season. My life is complete. From the first few minutes, you could tell the season was going to be special, and it only got better as the first episode continued. I know I sound like a broken record, but the cast is part of what made this season. There were some real vibrant characters, and even some of the under-edited players were memorable in their own way. I had arguably the best twist out of any of the pre-All-Star seasons, the Outcast twist, a sort of beta redemption island, if you will. Not to mention one of the most satisfying season endings of all time. Most people, they do regard Pearl Islands as one of, if not the best season of Survivor ever. There are literally people out there that think this is the best season ever. And while I don't wholeheartedly agree, I think that, there's 40 seasons. It's not like there's a cut and dry, like, best season ever. Everyone's gonna have different tastes. There are some people that think Thailand is their greatest favorite season, and they probably shouldn't be allowed to vote, but whatever. I can understand why Pearl Islands has amassed such a cult following. I know that in recent times I've given a lot of the other seasons high praise, but in the end, the Outback is still my favorite out of the first 8 seasons, still my favorite season of all time that I've seen, and it might just always be my favorite season of all time. We'll find out. I can't even begin to explain the joy, borderline ecstasy, transitioning from Borneo to the Outback. Literally everything is better. The location, the cast, even small details like the tribe colors and names that usually a lot of Survivor fans don't care about. But I'm a details man, and I like that. The first few episodes were wild and epic adventures, and even though the jury phase followed a very similar format to Borneo, it was much more engaging and entertaining, with the occasional twist and turn the whole way. Although people are to this day salty that Colby didn't win, Tina's out-of-nowhere victory is somewhat satisfying in its own way, but maybe that's just because Colby's ridiculously huge immunity streak was getting kinda old, and also he totally bombed the final tribal council. He had it in the bag, and then he literally told the jury to vote for Tina. I don't know what he was thinking. By and large, it was a perfect season beginning to end. And a good season of Survivor will make you sad that it's over. But a season like the Outback is so good that it makes you think, yeah, this season was amazing, but Africa is gonna be lit! So there we go. I've ranked the 8 seasons, but I'm not done with this era of Survivor just yet. That is right. I think I've already said this. I don't know why I'm doing this again, but I'm going to do a ranking of my top 10 favorite players from this era. So try to, if you've seen my other videos, I bet a lot of you have already seen them. Just kind of think about who you think is going to be on this list. I'd like to see if you guys are right. And but that I will preface that is not the next video. The next video is going to be a top 10 Masked Singer 5 performances of the past season. But because it's been so long, I'm kind of embarrassed that it's taken me this long to get a video out. Because those Masked Singer videos, majority of my views on this channel have been from Masked Singer videos. I have at least I still am so happy that that Masked Singer UK video has still been getting views, and it's been half of a year. It's already almost 7,000 views, which is crazy. I never imagined I'd get that many views at this point, so thank you for that again. But yeah, so I'm gonna get that done, get those videos done, and I honestly, I have so many just, ideas, sitting in like the backlog that some of that stuff might not even see the light of day until like season 4. So you never know. I plan to make a lot more Survivor videos because I kind of have to because I'm so far behind, and I don't want to, like, I started writing just last night. I just started writing the script for part 1 of the Survivor Vanuatu cast ranking, so I'm a little bit behind. Yeah. Anyways, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and you will see me later.